Neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. You've heard of it, but you're not really sure what it is or how it works, and more importantly, whether it can actually make a difference to how you think and feel. So to find out more, keep watching. Hi, Leslie Hornsby here. For those who tune in regularly, you're going to know that the focus of my channel is NLP techniques and communication skills, ideas about human psychology, and an exploration of how a variety of approaches can help you learn to master your emotions and develop a much more positive view of your world, even when the going gets tough. Okay, let's get down to business. This isn't going to be a deep dive into the subject because it would just take too long. It's going to be just a talk about the origin of NLP and some of the key theories behind it. So the fundamentals of NLP were developed in the 70s by its primary founders, John Grinder, a linguist, and Richard Bandler, who was an information scientist and mathematician. And Grinder and Bandler's first book on NLP, Structure of Magic, was a book about the language of therapy, released in 75. Its basic premise was to adapt the techniques and theories from other renowned mental health professionals and researchers with a view to interrogating the mental processes and attitudes, the patterns of communication and behaviour of people considered exceptional communicators and high achievers. So the result of this work was the development of NLP meta model. That's a technique that they believed could identify language patterns that reflected basic cognitive processes and how people learn. It led to the idea that the mind could, in the same way as a computer, be programmed, or perhaps more accurately, reprogrammed to change thoughts, processes and behaviour. Neuro-linguistic programming involved the study of what was occurring both at a neurological and subjective level. By looking at the structure of subjectivity, what became seminal to how NLP works was the fact that we experience memories through a series of mental images and a constant internal dialogue. We subconsciously apply context to this internal world by mentally ascribing to it a location, a size, direction, distance, volume, tone, and so on. All our memories also carry with them an emotional association, referred to in NLP as your emotional state. NLP amplifies your ability to manage your internal state and how you self-regulate. Establishing these details to someone's psychology, particularly when they're facing a psychological difficulty such as a phobia or limiting belief, effectively gifts them with a means to manipulate their emotional state by altering the contextual elements of their thoughts or memories, and thereby allowing them to make profound changes easily and quickly. It's great for helping you stay resourceful during normally stressful times, whether it be personal or professional context, giving you a high degree of behavioural flexibility in difficult situations. NLP also assumes that all human action is rooted in positive intent, even if the outward result appears negative. The reason this is useful for people to understand is that if a plan fails or the unexpected happens, the experience shouldn't be regarded as either good or bad, but rather simply presents you with more useful information. Adopting this view helps you remain positive even when things go wrong. By the late 70s, interest in NLP had grown, particularly when Bandler and Grinder began marketing the approach as a tool for people to learn how others achieve success. Modelling action and effective communication is a key element of neuro-linguistic programming. The premise being that if you can understand how another successful person accomplishes a task and their processes for achieving that, then by modelling their actions and mindset, you too can accomplish the task. NLP then works as a tool that you can use to model and reproduce excellence in any field. A landmark modelling example was exhibited early on in the development of NLP. Tony Robbins and Richard Bandler were hired by the US government to model the sharpshooting program. At that time, the participants trained for 4 weeks and it had a roughly 20% pass rate. The top 5 sharpshooters were modelled, including what they did physically and mentally, and how that was different from everyone else. The goal was to establish the process that these elite sharpshooters used to create the internal state they needed to be effective. The results showed common patterns to the sharpshooter's internal dialogue prior to and at the point of taking the shot. Certain commonalities emerged in the things they paid attention to and what they ignored, as well as their perceptions and preparation. This information was then collated into a repeatable, teachable process and incorporated into the sharpshooter program. The result on application showed a dramatic reduction in the program's length and failure rate. The training time shrunk to a week and there was an 80% pass rate. Another aspect of neuro-linguistic programming is the proposition that everyone has a personal map of reality. As human beings, we input and process information about the world around us, which in NLP is known as the territory. Our 5 senses, which as I'm sure you know is the visual, the auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory and gustatory, are referred to in NLP as our primary representational systems, or PRS. Your PRS is how you experience the world and is considered the language of our brain. Our internal map is not the territory, but a unique perspective, and as such, how we see the world isn't reality itself, because we can't truly separate ourselves from this personal view. It means we aren't actually responding to reality, but rather to our internalized version of it. How we represent things is purely personal in interpretation, and it may or may not be accurate. Because our personal maps are potentially flawed and inadequate, it prevents us from accessing all our choices. By learning to remap, you're much more likely to be able to formulate a problem-solving strategy. Also, the language we use is another indicator of the maps and models that guide our behaviour. Communication is how we explain the world to others and ourselves. NLP practitioners analyse their own and the perspective of others to create a systematic overview of a particular situation. By understanding a range of perspectives, you gain information more accurately, thereby elevating your self-awareness, leading to self-empowerment. Your senses are vital for processing available information, and it's also important to understand that both mind and body can have tremendous influence on each other. Neuro-linguistic programming is all about bringing changes in perception, responsible communication, and developing choices in your responses or communication in any given situation. The situation is pretty much immaterial actually, so whether it's personal or professional, but importantly, it empowers you by giving you choices and also being responsible for those choices. A favourite aspect of NLP for me personally is that it isn't like other forms of therapy. There's very little raking over old coals because it's often context-free. In other words, the coach or therapist can still be effective without knowing the specifics of a problem. It's not about the what happened of your experience so much as what you felt in response to it. So rather than focusing on the details of a difficult memory or experience, you instead work on the beliefs and perceptions that you associate with it. In some cases, you also reflect on identifying an event in your life that is responsible for a particular unwanted behaviour pattern that's emerged. NLP works on the principle that everyone has all the resources they need to make positive changes in their own life. And through the application of a variety of techniques, NLP equips you with that ability to make those changes. By building effective communication between yourself and your conscious and unconscious mental processes, you're able to increase creativity and problem-solving skills. The techniques are non-invasive, medicine-free, and can help people discover new ways of dealing with emotional problems, including low self-esteem, phobias, anxiety, poor confidence, addiction, depression, and destructive relationship patterns, and that's just to name a few. And today NLP is used in a wide variety of fields, such as counselling, medicine, law, business, and the performing arts, sports, the military, and education. There are many studies that have shown the benefits of working with NLP, such as a study published by the journal Counselling and Psychotherapy Research, which found psychotherapy patients had improved psychological systems and life quality after being counselled with NLP compared to a control group. Our senses pick up information from the world around us. We believe we see the world as it is, for what it is, but the truth is that that's an illusion. We can't see the world as it is because we're limited by our own perceptual filters. And we need these filters because the world's so vast. There's so much information to absorb that we've learnt to regulate and filter that information. Simply because we couldn't possibly manage it, we've become overwhelmed, like a computer crashing because it doesn't have enough processing speeds. The things you experience in your life are all coloured by a perception that more often than not is learnt. We may not have the power to decide what happens outside ourselves, but what we do have is the power to decide what we notice, what we give airtime to in our neurology, and how we respond to it all. Moreover, we have the capacity to recognise when we're projecting our historical biases onto a situation and be able to step back from them and become more objective if we are sufficiently self-aware. If NLP teaches us anything, it's that our unconscious bias to what we see as reality is actually a choice. Once you learn to recognise and control that, you then can introduce more choices about what you see and how you feel about it. NLP, when properly applied, can facilitate the dismantling of our less positive perceptual filters, which in turn makes you aware of a much wider selection of opportunities in the world. Successful people, whether personally or professionally, are not resourcing exclusive skills that the rest of us don't have. They simply see opportunity and possibility where generally others don't. Their personal filters are less rigid and therefore their choice is more plentiful. With NLP, you can actively decide who you want to be, how you react to and interact with other people. It shows us that your past does not have to determine your future. You can be the author of your own life. NLP is an effective and versatile approach to a variety of mental challenges, whether it's finding personal resources to deal with stressful situations, an ability to flex your behaviour in response to life's difficulties. It can even increase the speed with which you're able to learn. With all that in mind, if you feel you're struggling with some mental block or limiting belief that's holding you back, you're having difficulty reaching a life goal, or you just simply wish to learn to better understand and control your emotions, then you may find talking it over with an NLP specialist could help. You can reach me by using the contact link I've added below. It allows you to make a 30-minute appointment with me for a preliminary obligation-free chat, after which you can decide if you want to book some coaching. And if you'd like to know more about NLP, there's also a link to a free guide that covers some of the fundamental techniques. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos I post every week. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your company, and I hope you can join me again next time for more on living your best life. Bye for now.